Hi, I'm Lynn Glass, a Cape Town-based sugar artist and teacher, and I specialize in sugar sculptures and 3D cakes like this one. And this one. And this one. So if you'd like to check out any more of my work, you can check me out at www.lynglass.co.za. So tonight I've been asked to create a special cake for you guys inspired by the art piece called Here to Stay by Jody Paulsen. I will be pulling some amazing elements from this piece to create the design elements for this cake. So let's get started and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so the first thing I did was print a copy of the work so that I could see what I had to work with. I identified all the elements and colors that I loved and decided on a 2-tier cake. Next, I isolated the pieces and printed them to the size that I would like to see them on the cake, and I will be using these printouts as my templates. I drew a rough sketch of what I wanted the end result to look like, and I will be referring back to this design as I work. I have leveled and cut 3 layers of chocolate toffee cake to the same height, and I will be using dark chocolate ganache to fill and stack the cakes. You want to add a nice dollop of ganache on top of your cake. Holding your hand steady, keep turning your Lazy Susan to get the most even finish on your filling before stacking the next layer on top. Repeat this process with all your layers. Next, we're going to add a thin layer of ganache to seal the cake up. Once this layer is complete, we can stick the cake in the fridge for a few minutes to set before adding the final layer of ganache. Okay, now it's time for our final layer of ganache. Add a nice big dollop of ganache on a Teflon or acetate sheet and spread it evenly. Place your set cake onto the spread ganache and make sure your cake is upside down. Yes, upside down. We are creating a smooth, even top this way. You can use a spirit level on top of your cake to make sure it's nice and level on all sides. Next, we want to seal the top edge of the cake to make sure the cake card stays in place. It's time to start filling the walls. I'm adding thick layers of ganache with my little dough scraper, and I'm not too worried about it being too neat at this point, as it will all be cleaned up with a cake scraper. Final step for the ganache is to just clean it all up with a cake scraper. We're going to stick our cake in the fridge to set for a little bit. Once your cake is set, you want to flip it the right way up again by placing a smaller board on top and making sure your hands are centered over each other. Make sure this is a fast flip, as gravity can be quite a party pooper. Carefully remove the board and the Teflon sheet from your cake. You should be left with a smooth, even top. Now it's time to cover our cake with fondant. I'm using pre-colored bagel spetonies. There are many different ways to cover a cake, but today I will show you how to do the wrap method. The first thing we're going to do is to put a little lid on top of the cake. So we're going to roll out a smaller piece of fondant and smooth it over the top of the cake. Dust the lid with a bit of cornstarch, place a board on top, and flip your cake upside down again. Remember to center those hands. Using a blade or offset spatula, cut the excess fondant from the edge of the cake. You can now flip it the right way back again. The next step is to wrap some fondant around the cake, so we need to measure the circumference and the height of the cake. Roll a rectangular sheet of fondant according to the measurements. Once you're sure your fondant sheet is big enough, you need to cut one of the longer edges straight and roll the fondant onto a rolling pin or PVC pipe. It's time Grind your rolled fondant up against the cake and slowly unroll the fondant around the cake, smoothing it down with your hand as you go. Once the cake is wrapped, you can cut the excess fondant off at the back of the cake. With a sharp, clean blade, cut the excess fondant off from the top of the cake. With a cake and flexi smoother, smooth the edge and surface of the cake. Okay, so I wanted to add a bit of color to the cake, so I'm adding a bit of pink airbrush color to the base of the cake. I covered the bottom tier of the cake in a similar fashion. I'm going to stack the two tiers by just adding a bit of white chocolate and placing the pink tier on top of the blue tier. It's time for the fun bit and start the decorations. I'm doing the palm trees first. I'll start by attaching 4 lengths of 20 gauge florist wire to the tip of a small skewer. Don't take the wire too low, as you don't want to insert any of it into the cake. Next, I rolled a short length of brown paste and wrapped it around the skewer to add some bulk to the tree trunk. I rolled thin strips of brown paste, placed it under some acetate and thinned out the one edge with the larger end of a ball tool. With the smaller end of the ball tool, I just roughed up the thinned out edge to give it a more organic look. I carefully wrapped the strips around the trunk of the tree, starting at the top, ending at the bottom. I cut out a leaf shape, thinned out the edges, and then cut little V shapes along the edge to give it the palm tree leaf characteristic. Using a thin strip at the back of the leaf, I attached it to the wire of the palm tree. Next up are the little hands I want to attach to the edge of the top cake. I drew out a template and cut it out. I used my little template to cut the hand out of some black paste. I needed to paint the fingernails in a pale pink, so I decided to use some cocoa butter and pink dusting color powder, as it would show up the best on the black paste. I am adding some wood grain texture to the base of the bottom tier. To create this effect, I'm mixing together some quick paint, some cornstarch and white edible gel, and I'm painting this over thickly rolled out fondant. Once it's painted, allow it some time to dry. Once the paint's set, I rolled the fondant thinner to create the aged look. I cut out the lengths that I needed and added some extra texture with my Dresden tool. Time for the main feature on the bottom tier. I used my printout as a template to trace and cut out the features of the mouth on thin sheets of paste. I just love how it turned out. It came together quite nicely. Next up are the diamonds for the top tier. I'm using the same technique I did to do the mouth, but instead of cutting out the details, I will paint it this time. I wanted the airplane to have a backing, so I cut out a piece of foam board in a shape that it could fit on and covered it in purple fondant. Next up, I used the trace technique again to cut out the airplane out of pink paste. I dusted both the airplane and the backing in pink and purple to give it a bit of depth. I gave the airplane a yellow outline before I attached it to the purple backing. Next up is cutting a few letters out of yellow paste and then lining it with black. For the Statue of Liberty, I cut a little template out of acetate, attached it to the fondant and dusted in the details, and then cut off the excess around the statue. I used the trace technique again to cut our Table Mountain. I dusted the edges with a bit of purple before sticking it onto a white backing. For the chains that's going to go at the base of the cake, I've got a beautiful mold that I filled with paste and cut off the excess. After it's been demolded, I place the chains into a Ziploc bag to keep it soft until I'm ready to use it. For the flags, I roll the paste a bit on the thicker side. I cut out all the details out of thinner paste Stick it on, flip it upside down to cut off the excess. I wrapped a strip of paper around the top edge of the top tier to have a clean edge of where I want my zebra print to start. For the print itself, I cut out random strips out of very thinly rolled black paste and stuck it onto the cake. I cut the black paste off along the edge of the paper and then removed it to reveal a clean edge. I stuck the little hands along the top edge of the top tier just above the zebra print where I created the clean edge. I attached the aeroplane topper to a skewer and inserted it into the top of the cake. I wrapped a strip of paper around the top tier to make sure that my letter placing was accurate, and then I attached the letters to the cake. I attached the diamonds to toothpicks and then inserted them on either side of the name. Next up, I attached the still soft chains around the base of the bottom tier on the cake board. I scattered a few molded jewels all along the chain. I attached all the flags to the base of the bottom tier. Next up, I attached the wood grain tiles just above the flags. Table mountain went on next over the wood grain tiles. I attached the mouth closer to the top edge of the bottom tier. I attached the two statues just at the base of the mouth, behind Table Mountain. I placed the palm trees on either side of the cake. And there you have it, a beautiful cake inspired by Year to Stay. Thank you, Jody, for your amazing work. Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.